Good morning. How is everyone doing today? It is currently Sunday, October 27th, and we're going to be taking a look at a lot of stuff that has changed overnight and some of the model trends. And now, not only the GFS, but a couple other models are starting to like the idea of a potentially strong hurricane or two at the same time in the Southern Caribbean and the Atlantic Ocean. We're going to break down all the details in this video. The latest NHC update has upgraded it to a 30% chance of tropical development now from yesterday, the initial 20% chance. So odds are increasing and I think are more than likely over the next 24 to 48 hours going into the latter half of next week. Tropical development in the short term, I don't think we're going to see anything major anytime soon. Whenever we do get a center of low pressure, I do suspect it's going to be somewhere down in this general area down here in the Southern Caribbean. That is a terrible circle right there. Sorry about that. Um, but yeah, we're gonna be watching and monitoring the Southern Caribbean, the Central American gyro up to the Atlantic Ocean through Puerto Rico, the DR and Cuba for potentially another secondary low pressure system that could potentially form. But this is what the latest kind of imagery looks like out there right now. And, you see a lot of convection popping off down here in the Central American gyro and, nothing really organized. We've got a lot of convection down here, a lot of clusters and showers and thunderstorms, which will eventually lead to our low pressure system forming down here and potentially tropical storm hurricane or even major hurricane. And if you really look at the Gulf of Mexico up here and the northern part of the Yucatan, see everything's being sheared off. There's a lot of shear up here right now, but that's not going to be an issue going into the latter half of next week. I think it's going to die out and the environment is going to be a little more seducive for tropical development. Like I said, a lot of models are starting to all of a sudden like a pull to the north before heading out east. And the Canadian model is one of the models that's really latched onto it. So we're going to go ahead and jump over to the latest models and see what they've trended to overnight. Alrighty, beginning with the GFS model as always, because it was the first model to really latch onto this storm and a lot of other storms this hurricane season so far. And it's been, like I said, one of the more bullish models for the most part when it comes to any type of tropical system. It's one of the first ones to really jump out there, which is sometimes hard to believe. And it's one of those things where you got to take with a grain of salt a lot of times until a lot of other models start catching on to it, which they have. And we'll go over that. But the latest GFS likes the idea of a potential low pressure forming down here in the Southern Caribbean, the Central American gyro down here around Thursday, October the 31st. And as we put this in time, you'll see like 48 hours later, already going on a tropical storm. November the 2nd, Saturday, it likes the idea of another potential low pressure system forming potentially just north of Puerto Rico, north of the Leeward Islands, and starting to get its act together as well. And by this time, going into November the 4th, and notice things aren't really moving down here. It's very stagnant. Most likely, anything that does form down here is going to take its time. It's going to meander, which I think the flooding threat, regardless of development, and I know I said it a million times, is even if we don't see a major hurricane out of this, the flooding threat's going to most likely be the biggest issue. But on the other hand, if we did have something like this exact model run, which, like I said, if I'm in Jamaica, this is not an official forecast. I'm not showing y'all this to scare y'all and be like, prepare now, major hurricane heading there. Like I said, we don't even have a low pressure form there yet. This is just an area of investigation. Based on the environment around a certain time frame that's saying, hey, this could be conducive for tropical development. We think that there's going to be a potential tropical entity down here. And at the same time, like I said, a full-blown hurricane also going north of Puerto Rico at the same time while a major hurricane slamming Jamaica. I mean, this would probably be one of the worst case scenarios for the islands, in my opinion, if this happens. But we can put this in motion, slams the western part of Jamaica on the most dirty side of the hurricane, and just goes right up into Cuba as a major hurricane. You've got this other one over here, which is being pulled by the Bermuda High, another front coming down. And thankfully, like I said, the latest model runs are still hitting out a front coming down, high pressure building in and keeping these storms out into the Atlantic Ocean from impacting the United States. And weird enough, there's a potential another low pressure forming at the end of the GFS run. That's November 11th, but that's far out. We're not even going to pay attention to that. But let's go ahead and jump over to the latest Canadian model as well, because this one has really latched on to the idea of a major hurricane now, but not only a major hurricane, but it's been trending a more northwestward track. And let me show you what I mean by that. So it likes the time frame of a low pressure system trying to form a little bit later than the GFS model, which, like I said, timing's everything when it comes to these storm systems. Just a 24-hour difference or a 25 or 50-mile radius difference of where those low pressure forms can make all the difference. It will make all the difference. And we're going into November 4th, Monday. We've got maybe a low-grade Cat 1 hurricane at this point, nothing crazy, but it's definitely rapidly intensifying now. And like, look at this, starts moving northwest, straight for the gap between the Yucatan and Cuba, straight towards the Gulf of Mexico. Will this happen? How true is this? It's still hard to tell originally, because it's all going to depend on the timing of these troughs and everything coming down from the United States and all these storm systems, which is also going to trigger severe weather as well. But we can also take a look at the latest GEFS ensemble, which is made up of a whole bunch of different members of different models. It shows us pretty much more than just one model run, and what they think is where they think a low pressure system is going to potentially form. And you can see down here, starting to get to the beginning of November now, we've got two separate areas that are starting to pop up now. We've got one down here in the Central American gyro, and then one just north of Puerto Rico in the Leeward Islands. And this is going to be our two main areas that we're going to begin watch. And like I said, out of both of these areas, I think this one down here in the Central American gyro is going to be our more problematic one, potentially for the U.S. And I say, like I said, potentially, because this is still far out. This is, like I said, very, very far out. So until we get a low pressure system formed, we're not going to know 100% what's going to happen with it. But based on, the earlier forecast in the United States, we can kind of hint at and say, hey, like there's, we're going to have potential cold fronts, troughs coming down by this date, and this is the time frame it's expected to be here based on these tropical models. So, we could say that, okay, it's probably going to get pushed out into the Atlantic. But like I said, this is not a forecast. It's just a guesstimate at this point, right? But we go in time frame November 4th. Whole bunch of strong members down here firing up south of Jamaica, and then a couple of members over here firing up in north of the DR, right? We put this in time frame. A lot of the ensemble members, like the idea of this thing being pulled more north now, towards Florida, towards the United States. Like I said, this has been back and forth. That's what I'm saying. This is not believable just yet. We need to consistently see this leading up to the event, leading up to an official low pressure system form. Like once we officially have that low pressure system formed down here into an invest or a named storm, that point we drastically get a better idea of what's going to happen with this system. But until then, it's a little bit foggy. Okay, so just because if you see people posting on social media or on the news or whatever, a potential, oh, look at all these members, major hurricane coming to Florida, that doesn't mean it's necessarily true yet. They're showing you one potential model run, one outcome that is far out without any explanation, right? That'd be like me coming on here showing you that GFS with a major hurricane heading Jamaica and be like, major hurricane heading Jamaica, within the next couple of days. It's like, no, we're not. We're not going to fearmonger on here. I'm here to give you all the truth and nothing but the truth in as much clarity as possible. So this is pretty much going to do it for the tropics. Like I said, definitely some big updates overnight. It's just something that we're going to continue monitoring. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump over to the United States and talk a little bit about the severe weather. Alrighty, jumping over to our 250 millibar wind speed. As we push this into time going into Tuesday and Wednesday, you'll see this massive dip in this jet stream, and as we go into Wednesday, it becomes more and more amplified. This is what's going to initiate our severe weather, and it's going to basically be going from here all the way up to here, and along this you're going to have pieces of energy low pressure systems that end up forming within this dip that collide with this other air mass on the other side of the United States. Hopefully I explain that properly for y'all. And this is going to be our more ample severe weather event that we've seen in quite some time. I don't think it's going to be a severe weather outbreak by any means. I don't think we're going to see 20, 30 plus tornadoes. I think the probability of tornadic development is definitely there. Another thing we can take a look at is going to be our moisture levels, our dew points. And this is going to show us, how much, not energy per se, but, moisture is in the atmosphere, because you need moisture for any storms to really develop. And going into Tuesday and Wednesday, we've got 60 dew points streaming in all the way up to pretty much Kansas, pretty much almost Iowa, and this goes into Thursday. We got 70 dew points pushing into Louisiana, Alabama on Thursday and Friday. I think we'll have more severe weather events that day, but I mean, plenty of energy, plenty of CAPE in the atmosphere. And if we go ahead and jump over to the latest Storm Prediction Center, beginning with our day 3 outlook. This is going to be our day 3 outlook going into, let's see, what day is this here? Tuesday. Okay, just making sure we're on the same page here. Going into Tuesday. This, so far, they only have a marginal risk. Obviously, it's still too far out to nail down any specifics. I think an isolated tornado threat will be available somewhere from Kansas to Nebraska, going all the way up to Iowa. It's really going to depend. This day is a little bit still uncertain what we're going to kind of see. It's going to be more of a conditional threat, and it's not until we get into Wednesday. We already have a day 4 outlook, a 15% chance, already a slight risk for portions of extreme northern Texas, north of the DFW area, Wichita Falls, Oklahoma City, going up into Kansas City. That we haven't seen one of these in a while. From anything past 4 days, it's been a while since we've seen one of these. So it just shows you that our second severe weather season is getting ramped up. We're going to start seeing these more often. I wouldn't be surprised, within the future, we start seeing 30% enhanced areas added on the day 4 plus out. So it's something that we're going to have to monitor as we get closer. I will keep you all up to date. But that's going to conclude it for today's video, guys. Hopefully I explained everything properly. It's definitely earlier in the morning for me than what I usually wake up, so still trying to wake up here, but I appreciate the support. Much love. If you like the video, definitely like it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, definitely comment down below and I'll get to them as soon as possible. And don't forget to subscribe. More videos like this. I love y'all and see y'all in the next video.